Take this kiss upon the brow, and in parting from you now, thus much let me avow. You are not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream. Yet if hope has flown away, in a night or in a day, in a vision or in none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep. While I weep, oh God, can I not grasp them with a tighter clasp? Oh God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream? Today on Me, Myself, and the Woman in Me, a Me, Myself, and miniseries book club, I'm joined by my sister, a beauty baptized in Britney's fragrance, Curious, the DJ Dinah Fire. We continue our journey reading through Britney Spears' memoir, The Woman in Me, with this week being chapters 10 through 15. We kick off the chapter at what is revered as Britney's peak during the early 2000s. Fresh off only a debut record, she's a household name, a franchise phenomenon, and already crowned the Princess of Pop. Here, we witness via Britney's personal recounts what it's really like to be her. Remember, this book club is ours, so make your voice heard wherever you watch or listen to this podcast. And now, book club's in session, bitch. Welcome back, everybody, to Me, Myself, and the Woman in Me, the Me, Myself, and miniseries book club going over Britney Spears' highly anticipated, highly regarded, highest sell. It's just fucking outselling everything right now. New York Times best-selling memoir, The Woman in Me. I don't know if that intro made sense, but doesn't make any sense, does it? Catch that reference. So I'm joined here today with a fucking sister. That's only who I want on this goddamn show. Our true sisters and people that get Britney the way I do. And the moment she stepped in, not only did the overwhelming scent of Britney's second perfume, Curious, implore the room, but I looked right at the outfit and I said, oh, I know exactly what reference you are talking about. We are giving beautifully chronologically, like, choreographed and dressed the way we are today, because this chapter goes over a lot. It goes over like the tail end of the Oops era, into the Britney era, and into the In the Zone era. And my outfit inspo today, yes, this is an outfit repeat, but you know what? Lizzie McGuire is also an outfit repeater, so I don't give a goddamn, okay? So I was like, let me give Britney era with the green, the earth tones, the neon green background, if y'all get it, the freshly dyed blonde hair. And our lovely guest is giving pure 2003 In the Zone. We are joined by the motherfucking Dinah Fire.
Here, finally.
I know, finally. Catch our episode of Me, Myself, and the original series coming soon. But for now, we have this book to talk about.
Yes.
What was that?
What an occasion.
Absolutely. It's a special occasion. Britney's emancipation. So, just bring it out a little closer. Gorgeous. So, I wanted you on because, like, there's a lot of Britney fans here, but, like, you're Britney stan.
Yeah, I am.
Down.
You know, and it's one of those things where, like, I feel like when you're younger, you, like, downplay it. But something about, like, being grown and being, like, an adult, you're like,
Hell yeah.
actually, I love Britney. I don't give a fuck if you think it's corny, if you think it's too much. I don't care. I love her. Like, she's that girl. I think that, like, you know, as people, we have these figures.
Yeah.
Some people it's Jesus Christ. Some people it's the Obamas. For me, it's Britney, bitch.
That was beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I had to like collect
Just
my
so I
tears up a
feel.
bit. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And that's the whole point with the show And that's why I'm glad she's kind of, I don't want to say having this moment because she even hates that herself, the idea of a comeback or having a moment. She's always fucking
Right.
been here. She didn't die. But it's like, she's more than just a pop star. I know everyone says it about their fave and about their fave pop star, but it's like, no, this lady is a pillar of strength. And I truly look to her in my darkest of times, and she's got me through those. And like, all of us can relate. That's why we love her. That's why we're here. We're fucking celebrating this goddamn book.
Yes.
Wow, that sentiment made was so beautiful. It reminded me of the
You.
moment Chris Crocker was on. I think it was
The
what's
Maury show.
yes,
Before I'm an American.
I'm a Britney fan. So it's very that some people have Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, others have Britney Spears. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And with that being said, you also have something you want to bring to the show, which is our segment, if you'd like to call it, our piece of me. So, my love, my sister Dinah Fire, what is this week's piece of you?
Okay, so
that you'd like to bring?
this is a little gonna seem a little crazy, but this is actually
Good
there's a
reference.
really cute story to this. My friend, so I was never okay, so I was A, not allowed to listen to Britney, and B, not allowed to have like Barbies and toys as a kid. So one of my best friends for a birthday present got me this Britney Spears Barbie doll. And I don't know, it just meant so much because it represents so much of just like I think the things in childhood that we gravitate towards when we don't have the language for it, and people who I think we aspire to and we look up to. And Britney was a very like a very like lambasted, like very like controversial figure of that. I feel like the kids that choose Britney, it's like choosing war. You know what I mean? Because immediately your parents are like, no, you cannot. No, you should not. You are not allowed to listen to her.
And
You
that's
can't go to
not
the
an
concert.
exaggeration. That's legit.
Oh yeah. I yeah, ironically, like during the I think like the Britney era, I like I discovered Britney, I feel like in the early 2000s, like all at once because I don't really know people found music back then. Like we just all had like I don't know, like it was just you see things on TV basically. And I didn't really know about music. So I feel like when I discovered Britney, I discovered this Britney, Baby One More Time Britney, Oops Britney, and all the Britneys at the same time. And I think Slave for You was out. And so my mom was like, you cannot listen to this.
Wow.
But and so it's weird. I feel like the Britney era was my band era. Was the era where like I was not aware of her and Justin. Like I was just I missed it. And then Toxic was when I was like, I don't give a fuck what anyone says.
That's my mama.
I'm a Britney fan. So this just represents like, I don't know, I guess stuff that like childhood kind of dreams are made of, but also it's like, you know, it's Britney as like a model of a lot of things, like beauty, strength, like all the things that I think she started out with, but you know, as we see in these like chapters, that is a lot of what's tested in her story. So I just love this little Barbie. Also, this outfit is so cute.
I know, and it's funny because when you were pulling it out, you're just like, I don't want this to sound crazy or look crazy. And this is the outfit from Crazy.
Yeah,
no?
I've actually never taken it out.
Wow, I don't
Never.
blame you. Oh my god, it
I
has
don't really
the jacket.
know. Yeah, because I don't really know how I like. I want to take it out, but I'm also just like, what am I gonna do with it? Like, I'd rather just kind of, you know.
It's like if we were like 3 years old, like we'd be taking it out and playing with it. But like this is the piece right here, baby. Like this is MoMA right here. I'm so serious. Like
also, I live for the back. The back has all these factoids on Britney, which we all know, obviously. But it's just
can
like,
we read some?
Yeah, we should.
I haven't held one of these. You remember? Have you seen Freaky Friday?
Yes.
Jamie Lee
course,
Curtis, Lindsay
of
Lohan,
course, of course,
2003. You know the moment they're in the car and they've obviously switched bodies, and what's her face? The mom is driving the car and she's driving Lindsay Lohan's character, who's actually Jamie Lee Curtis inside, and she's eating French fries and she hands one over to Lindsay, who's the mom spiritually, and she's eating the McDonald's fries and she's like, oh, I haven't had one of these in 20 years.
Yes.
That's me holding this right now. I'm like, I haven't seen you, baby, since Kmart year 2000. That's crazy.
I honestly don't think I ever saw these in any stores. Like I think I did not. I don't know. I don't know how I just missed this. Like,
oh, I lived at Kmart.
I don't know how I missed it. I think I missed the first Britney Mania wave. I
Mm,
wish I was like, you know,
yeah.
could like experience
But I
it,
mean,
but
they all kind of like, and this is something we'll actually discuss in this chapter, is that like it was so consistent. Like the eras were so stretched out, which not a lot of people do these days, but also at the same time, they all blended together so much. It was just hit after album after album after era after tour after tour. So like it kind of, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it does like blend in a bit. So it's like you caught on at the perfect time,
yeah.
love, you know? So the back of this box says pop music's #1 female artist.
Number one.
Britney leaves a lasting impression with her cool costumes, sensational vocals, and fresh videos. T. Birthday, December 2nd, 1981. Birthplace, Kentwood, Louisiana. Middle name, Jean. Favorite pastime, shopping, hanging out with family and friends, reading romance novels, and spending a day at the beach. All things that show very well in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Sign Sagittarius, she loves freedom. Birthstone, Topaz. Wow. Brittany's special message to fans also is make your dreams come true. Love, Brittany.
Oh wow.
That's fucking iconic. Thank you for bringing this.
Of course.
This is special. I'm
I'm really
so
glad
serious.
that like I literally forgot I had it, and when you said bring something, I was like, okay.
And it's crazy because I think I even like had to add parentheses to that text I sent you. And I was like, like metaphorically or whatever,
Mhm.
like, bring something with you, even if it's a lyric that you can't hold. But not only did you bring something that's tangible, you brought like the relic. So I thank you for doing so. Do you mind, honestly, if I switch her with
Of
the book
course.
and leave
Of
her on
course, of
display?
course. I have a question for you though.
Yeah.
I'm so curious because my friend told
I'm
me
so
when
curious. Do you love me?
do you dare? She asked
Yes!
me
You better.
So I'm curious. My friend asked me, when she tried to get this gift from me, she was being really cryptic. She was like, "What's your favorite Britney look? Like music video, like look?" And of course, I was telling her like, "Oh, toxic piece of me, like stuff that's not going to be in a Barbie." Like
Mhm.
she's like, "What's your favorite early Britney look?" And I was like, I said either that tour where it was like the metallic pink, the
Yeah.
metallic, or crazy.
The, like, one sleeve, she had, like, the pink
Yes, it was
bra,
like
the
white and
metallic pants.
exactly.
Oh, the white and
The
pink.
white and pink. Sorry, the white and
The
pink.
pink tube top, white
Yes,
pants,
that one.
ponytail, that's, Baby Tour.
Baby tour.
Yeah.
That or this, and she got me this. But I was just curious, what would you, if you were gonna get a Britney doll, what would be your Britney doll look?
Ooh, is it between those 2
No,
options
it's
or
any. I mean, apparently there were like a million different early, like anything from Baby or Oops, their outfits of.
Wow.
I'm just curious.
Ooh. You know what? I think to me, I would say either I mean, if they probably didn't have this because, like, it was deemed inappropriate at the time, so much so where MTV had to fucking broadcast a video of her reacting to fans' reactions to it, but I would say the 2000 VMAs look. Wouldn't that be kind
Oh
like, it would have her in the
yeah.
bodysuit, the
Yep.
nude naked bodysuit, and then it would have the fucking pantsuit hung on the side the way the jacket is hung up here with the hat, kind
Bitch.
that or honestly, one of my favorite Britney looks ever for a time I like early Britney is the Sometimes video outfit. The one where
Oh,
she's
I
doing the
love
choreo.
that
It's like
one.
that. Fuck, that's gonna be my Halloween costume next year, where she has the white, kind of like quarter tee. It's kind of like a
Yep.
sweater in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and the white pants, and her hair just looks gorgeous. She has a
I was just
little
the hair.
tan on her. They kind of Ariane to her a little bit, and it looks so good on her.
It's so pretty.
So I would say those two.
Sometimes it's a really good one. I always forget that one. But you're right. Her hair was it was like
Yeah.
maple,
Ugh.
like honey gold. So good.
Oh yeah, I'm after my blonde era is over, which is it's not gonna end for a while. I'm gonna go into like my maple earthy era. But
Nice.
the what we can go into is this book. You ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready? So, this week we're going over chapters 10 through 15. Last week I was joined by the lovely DJ Liam, a sister of ours, where we went over chapters 5 through 10, which from what my memory serves me was pretty much the beginning. It was pretty much like Baby One More Time era, like Britney's really taking off. The video's been shot. It's her first kind of like taste of what life is about to be like for her. So she goes on the baby tour, meets or kind of like rekindles her relationship with Justin as, she was opening up for NSYNC at the time and whatnot. And so we end up here pretty much at chapter 10, where she's just being like reignited with Justin again, the quote unquote magnets between them, or, they're like magnets when they're together, which was shared by Justin's family, Brittany's mom as well. So that's kind of chapter 10. That's where we leave off at. Brittany also, at the end of the chapter, I'll note before we really get into it, she paid her dad's debts. Debts? I don't know how to pronounce that word. Arab. Pays her dad's debts, and she buys her mom a house in Kenwood, Louisiana. So she, quote unquote, as she says, gave them a clean slate. So that's a very important moral to keep in the back of your head. This is the beginning of her really taking care of the family. Jamie Spears is no longer wearing the pants in the house. Britney is wearing them, and they're low rise. Okay.
That was good.
So, with that being said, what do you think about chapter 10?
Chapter 10, I love. I mean, it's really interesting seeing her reflecting upon like that time where I think all eyes were truly on her.
Mhm.
I think here's the thing, like for me, I was telling this to you off camera, like
Mhm.
there's something about her and Justin that I know how much it means to her, but something about them as a power couple. Maybe it's because again, the Britney era was my Britney band era,
Mhm.
so I missed a lot of it. But even in retrospect, I never quite like it never clicked for me.
Mhm.
I didn't ship them. I didn't like live for them together.
Mhm.
The denim look was cute, but I don't know. I never got the sense that like Justin was that guy for her. Like I think that it's childhood love. I think it's your first love. We all know that. Like rationality kind of goes out the window. So
Mhm.
I think her feelings are very raw and real, and I love how open she is. And it's kind of shocking in a way how much she like really, really loved and
Loves him.
maybe still loves him. It's like, but I don't falter on it because I don't see it for him, but I understand like what he meant to her as a symbol, and I think it's something that I think she found safety in those early years. And he
That's
understood her. He was
Yep.
her peer, her equal, and I think the rest of her life she was never able to find someone that was like an equal, a peer like that.
Beautiful, beautiful point. And I like didn't really come to that realization honestly until this morning when I was reading over the chapters again with like, as you said, word for word exactly. It's like, first of all, it's like when we all find our first loves, whatever that may be, if it's real love or not, looking back on it in hindsight, it's like when you fall for your first love, like you fall for your first love, period, end of story. But especially with Brittany's case here, we have to look at the men that have been in her life up till this point.
Right.
They've been damaged or just like what you said, not her equal. Brian, for instance, I think Brian, her brother, is like the only male figure she had to really look up to
Okay.
until his accident that happened, when they were teens, and then she had to end up taking care of him and whatnot. And then eventually, later down the road, she becomes his boss essentially as
Right.
he starts
Brian.
working for her. Yeah, later during the In the Zone era, and Jamie Spears is a piece of shit. So yeah, Justin really, I
Yeah.
in my eyes, like I see why she fell for him because he's, the most powerful man in her eyes, or, a
Mm-hmm.
man that has it together, something that she isn't really exposed to a lot, unless if it's people that are controlling her, aka her label. But this is a guy that loved her, liberated her, but also had a life of his own. And I think that's what stood out to her, if that makes sense.
And I think it was the family thing too. I think you mentioned something about Brian, which is really interesting because
Mm,
if you notice, a lot of the other men in her life, um, the proximity to Brian, it's always her first boyfriend, she calls him Brian's friend. Like, I was dating Brian's friend. Or
yeah,
even
that's
later with
the guy
Justin.
who she loses her virginity
Yeah,
to, her best friend. Yep.
that's the Reggie guy, right?
I think so.
I was a
Yeah.
little like shocked how she just kind of like called him Brian's friend because I feel like we were always told that was her first boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
like in her childhood, but she calls him Brian's friend. Same with Jason Trevick later. She calls him Brian's friend.
Yep.
It's like interesting how certain people she just calls them, I don't know. So
No, completely.
Justin
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is completely outside of that sphere. And I think Justin brings kind of a different kind of like family unit for her to latch
Yeah.
onto. Because
Yeah.
maybe a lot of the other guys were connected to her family. So
Yeah, and they had, Mickey Mouse Club together. So it's like she was falling for not just like this guy, not just, the quote unquote hottest member of NSYNC, which I'm saying quotes because JC obviously was the hottest.
JC,
Thank you.
obviously.
Exactly. Marilyn's sister as well. So
He was so hot and chaotic when she was asking about sex
I
positions. I was like,
know.
see that no, see, that's something I was
I
shipping
wish
that.
they fucked.
I was shipping that so hard. More than I
Same.
ever shipped Britney and
Same.
Justin.
Same. I wish they fucked.
Me too. I
But
think they did.
mm,
I don't know. Their relationship was so, and it was interesting how he was on that tour with her. Like right after.
no.
It was just like,
Smart
because
girl.
remember,
Get him
Christina and
again.
Justin were doing it.
Uh-huh. The strip justified tour. Brittany was like, you know what? No, get him again. My girl, my mama for a reason. But you know, Justin at this point is like a family friend almost.
Mhm.
You know, like they mentioned, I think this was earlier. I think this was what, like not baby era, but definitely before, you know, 2001 me and Justin era where Brittany had to go back home because her grandmother died and Justin's family paid for their ticket.
Oh,
So, like, they
right.
have
I
a
forgot about that
connection
part.
with each other, you know? Like, these
Yeah.
people, like, these are, like, you know, their family friends, so she's really falling for someone she knows well, a friend. So,
Yeah.
which is very interesting. So I see why. And I mean, also at the same time, too, it's like on top of all that, it's like, yeah, he is like America's heartthrob.
Yeah.
So, like, she's kind of winning on all fronts here at this point.
Although I think it's kind of funny how even in the early parts of the chapters, in this way that's like not really shady, it's just kind of like it is what it is.
Yeah.
She's starting to pick at his
Oh, yeah.
interesting, like, you know, the black scent and the
Fauches,
appropriation.
fauches.
She does it in a way that's so like I honestly was really impressed by the way it wasn't like shady or like trying to take him down. It was just like this is just what the culture was at the time. So
Mm-hmm.
he walked up to Genuine and he said, "Yo, Genuine, push this, push," like that was just. But it's like on our 2023 lens, we're like, that's really cringe.
Yeah.
It's really dire of him. But
But, like, people don't realize, like, early 2000s are crazy.
yeah, I found the NSYNC Backstreet Boy thing interesting too.
I think she ate that. She was talking about how NSYNC, like from the beginning, like positioned themselves as like kind of like a black adjacent
Mhm.
group, I believe,
Mhm.
where she said like Backstreet Boys knew their lane, they're just pop.
Yeah.
Including like their identity, you know, what, you know, the guys get from.
I never read into any of that. I never honestly noticed that between the two bands. It makes sense when I look at it. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
now you
The
look at it.
styling, the way they were dancing, like I guess I just thought because of their like the way they sang was so white, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it's gonna be my. It was very just
Yeah.
like but yeah, you're right. It was styled
Mm-hmm.
and it was curated in a way that was very like hip hop adjacent. So,
1,000,000%.
hmm
I'm gonna pause really quick.
okay.
This will be edited. All right. We're good. I'm pausing this anyways. Can you check whenever you're ready on where the video's recording? I'm good, right? Because something happened. Okay, good. Thank you. Just paranoia.
Can you take a sip of water?
Bless you. Absolutely. Bless you. Thank you. Yeah, anytime you need a moment, feel free.
This is my water, right?
Oh, yes, it is. All right.
And
All right. I'm going to begin from. Okay, so that was pretty much like chapter 10 wrapping up and
oh, there was
11.
one thing though about
Oh,
number 10.
go for it.
Controversial. The hair quote. The Dolly Parton said, "I'm not offended by all dumb blonde jokes because I know I'm not dumb. Also, I know that I'm not blonde." Britney says, "My real hair color is black." And I'm like, is it?
I was like, I don't think black. Like brown,
Black?
yeah, but black, no,
I don't
girl.
think Britney's hair is black. That was one of the most puzzling lines in the entire book to me.
Yeah, I don't. I'm like, unless if we haven't seen pictures, okay, but I'm like, brown, sure, maybe a dark brown, maybe a chestnut, fierce, but black hair?
I just, yeah. That there were certain parts, like the way that it's written where she says things very matter of fact and curtly, where it's like,
Yeah.
honestly, the next sentence too. I started reading religious books of the Conversations with God series by Neil Donald Walsh. I also started taking Prozac. End of chapter. And I'm just like,
You know what it is?
it's
It's so Britney.
it's so pretty.
It's so her. Like you're gonna get the most random shit ever. It reminds me of the letters of truth, actually, you know, like the letters of truth. Like she'd be going
Yes.
in about her personal life and then just being like, but also on the side, I've really gotten into painting. You know what I mean? And just
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I don't know, she's just like how do you say it? Like she speaks like off like the tip of her tongue or whatever. I don't know the saying exactly, but she's very off
She's very sharp like that, I think.
always.
And it's funny because I think sarcasm is something that she plays with, and you never know when she's
Oh, yeah.
being sarcastic when she's not. I know it's a later chapter thing, but the whole letter of truth from back in the day about sorry, paparazzi. I was just studying for my new role in a movie, spelled ROLL. Everyone was like, what does that mean? It was a really dark role in a movie. We all just thought it was some random, weird, sarcastic thing. She
Mhm.
was just being funny. And in the book, she talks about she actually was reading this dark role for a movie.
She's a genius.
She's just like,
She's a fucking genius. I'm gonna like I'll talk about this of course later on that chapter too, but
yeah.
my favorite like letter of truth from her that I really want to get tatted is the one where she's like, good luck to all the other like blonde bombshells on the cover of Us Weekly, da da da, whatever. It's so funny. It's her. I think I have it saved on my phone because it's that fucking relevant and important. Yes, the fuck I do. I just search Us Weekly on my phone and it comes right up. She says, I've actually learned to say no with this newly found freedom. It's like the people don't know how to act around me. Should we talk to her like we did when she was 16 or like the icon everyone says she is? My prerogative right now is to just chill and let all the other overexposed blondes on the cover of Us Weekly be your entertainment. Good luck, girls. Love. That's my fucking mama.
Boom.
But with that being said, are you ready to get into chapter 11?
Let's do it.
Cool. So, chapter 11 begins the 2001 knee era, but not necessarily the Britney self-titled era. We're like tail end of Oops era. So it begins with her being in the fucking Super Bowl halftime show with Steven Tyler, Mary J. Blige. It was a bunch of other people. They covered Walk This Way Together. She looked so fucking good. Her styling at this time was perfect. I like how they would always take the theme of what the occasion is and she would add her twist to it. So especially with all these like NFL events, like she would have like a jersey and just cuntify the hell out of it
Yeah.
and just look so damn good. Even later on when she did the NFL kickoff in 2003 when she had like that little bob.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
So good.
Yeah.
So
The hot
fucking good.
pants.
Yes. Oh, the hot
That's
pants.
on fire.
That performance is everything. People don't get that enough credit. And I'm like, this performance is one of her best. That mix is everything.
It really actually, have you seen that meme going around of that performance with the baiting tweet of the person trying to say without the props and the stage and the
Yeah.
fire? I'm like, please.
Fuck off. And then did you see the quote tweet that like ratioed that? And somebody pulled out the performance of Boys from Dream Within a Dream where she's performing the co-ed remix and she goes into the dance breakdown and like, yeah, there's lights and shit in the back, but the camera's just focusing on her and the dancers and she is fucking it
Oh, yeah.
up. Like, don't don't disrespect mama like at all, even now in 2023. But it's like what you're not gonna do is say Britney Spears, specifically Britney Spears 2000 to 2001 wasn't a fucking superstar. You are lying to yourself.
That part.
And good luck. But anyways, so yeah, the Super Bowl thing happened. This is like the beginning of Britney's upward arc that was already, you know, going fucking crazy since Baby and since Oops. But like now we're really taking off. She mentions that um quote unquote seemingly endless good things are happening.
Right.
She ends up being the most powerful woman on Forbes to then be the most powerful person overall on Forbes the following year. So like this, I even get like chills saying about it. It's like, y'all don't understand to the kids now, like this bitch was everywhere. Do you have any memory of this time since like you are now like you're
Yeah,
approaching
it's
your Britney
I
interest?
know. It's just it's crazy. This was definitely in the period where it's funny because I do feel like my household is a pretty good litmus for like what was happening
Mm.
with Britney Mania. Because reading this book, I really do feel like she went through three waves of just like Britney Mania, right? Where it was like the first two where
Yep.
it was like the little kids were crazy, everyone loved it, Britney. And then the third one, what we're getting into with Britney era, I think is where she's pushing the envelope a little
Yep.
more. And almost immediately people are kind of threatened. And it's like the kids love it, but then parents kind of we're getting upset.
Mm-hmm.
And in my house, it was very much like, yeah, I think like my sister had the Britney album, but it was like you can't you don't play her in front of the parents. It started becoming like something where everyone knew Britney, everyone knew the songs, but it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't really
Which is like typical of any type of quote unquote mania. You know, like
True.
you like you look at like Beatles mania, everyone was about it, and then everyone wasn't. Like Michael, everyone was about it, and then everyone wasn't it. You know, it becomes
Right.
that thing of like, oh, the kids are like it because it's cool, and the parents hate it because it's cool.
Exactly.
You know?
And it feeds into the whole overall like zeitgeist moment of it all, where, I think it only adds to the feel. I mean, Michael Jackson had that. Like, you know, people were threatened by him and he was still like the number one selling artist, but
Mhm.
I think it's that push and pull effect.
Yep.
And I think this is the era where it really happens the most.
Yeah.
In those kind of like, the height of it. I really feel like, yeah, I think my biggest memory is during that time is probably like I think it's gonna be the product placement. It felt like Britney was in every like there was a video game, there was a Pepsi ads,
Yep.
there was PlayStation. I just
Yep.
remember you honestly like Britney was everywhere.
Everywhere.
Even if you weren't listening to her music, she was everywhere. She was ubiquitous. It was just like, okay, she is like everything. She's the moment.
Yeah, and people don't realize that like phenomenon now because like I hate to be that person, but it's like now that we have our phones where like you could see everything, it doesn't hit as hard and isn't as impactful. So it's like you would go a day, say like your school day, then any after school activities, you would see some type of Britney thing anywhere. Whether you're at McDonald's and she has like a toy with them, or the Pepsi ads, or Kmart and the dolls are there, like everywhere. Like it didn't just end at the CDs and the music,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like on one hand, she wasn't on like Disney Channel anymore, and she wasn't on like she didn't
Yep.
have these being made anymore.
Yep.
But on the other hand, she was like in movies, on every magazine cover. You know what I mean? It was like it was
Mm-hmm.
bridging that mainstream media thing
Yeah.
from being like the kiddie kind of side of things.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, that's where like depending on how old you are, you're gonna have a different experience. I was too young to be able to like appreciate like the more older stuff. So I feel like Britney was still everywhere. You always absorbed Britney in some way, but during this era, it's interesting. Like my memory of her more than the music was the product placement. I think,
Mm.
if I'm being honest,
I think that's a very valid memory, and that's kind of mine. The same thing.
because parents could say you can't listen to her, but okay, you go to the store and she's on the rack. Like,
Everywhere.
yeah,
Everywhere.
so
Commercials,
that's power.
everything. That is fucking power. And yeah, so pretty much from there, we get towards the end of 2001. It's funny, in this chapter, I noticed she kind of goes back and forth because chapter 11, she's talking about 2001. She talks about the beginning of 2001,
Uh
and then
huh.
towards the end of chapter 11, she talks about the end of 2001, which marks the beginning of the Britney era. And then in chapter 12, she goes back to the end of the Oops
Oh,
tour and
interesting.
talks about um, performing in Rio, her kind of like a little moment of rebellion with her dances, which we'll talk about later. But for right now,
Hmm.
we're talking about chapter 11. And in chapter 11, we are getting ready for the 2001 VMAs. So right now, she's already come off of two excellent VMA performances that girls this day can't even dream of. I'm so sorry. The Baby One More Time performance at the VMAs in 1999 and the Oops and Satisfaction performance of 2000. So she's getting ready to debut her single, I'm a Slave for You, at the VMAs. I'm going to repeat that one more time. She's getting ready to debut her single. You know the video of Nicole Scherzinger talking about playing the Pussycat Dolls, the record that they weren't a part of. And she's like, we sat them down and we played them the record. Do you understand what I'm saying? We played them the record. And I emphasize that. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I emphasize that because she's about to debut a single, the single that is the beginning of her change in sound trajectory from here on out. Let alone, nobody debuts singles on fucking award shows anymore,
Hmm.
especially in a pre-streaming or in a streaming world. Nobody does that. So it was a very big moment we're getting ready for. And then, the performance obviously became iconic. What'd you think?
Of the performance.
Yeah,
Or
just like
that
this
moment?
time. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's crazy. I really wish I could rewind and be in that because I was listening to this podcast, it's the pop culture, forget the name of it, but it's a
Pantheon.
sub, it's like listening to Britney. It's like a sub podcast of kind of like how this is
Ah,
the sub podcast of me, myself, and
love.
it's great. I'll send it to you. But they break down Britney's music and like the musicality and like production and
Mm,
her voice and the way her voice is used. And it goes from baby, oops, slave,
yeah.
toxic, give me more. And Say for You, it's so interesting. Like she completely flips the script on all the things that were formulaic in what Britney songs are.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is like kind of bringing in the kind of like Jack swing, like Virginia, like hip hop, Janet Jackson, like the breathy vocals.
Max Martin
And
not found on this track.
exactly, it's interesting because
Yep.
like a lot of a lot of this informs, I think, like the next wave of Britney albums. But I mean, I don't know. I wonder. I'm just dying to know, like, what a Britney fan in that moment when you hear "Slave for You," like, what do you think? Like, you're just like, wait a minute.
I know. I wish like that's the moments like these where like I wish like right now I'm 26. I wish I could have been 26 in
Oh.
2001 watching the VMAs and just hearing the thunder crash and do 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 do. I'd be like the windy gif.
Uh
I'm like,
huh.
hold on.
I like
Now
to imagine it's like watching like Olivia Rodrigo like really shock you and do like something like I don't know. Like I can't even
I know what you're
compare. I
saying,
can't. But
but that's
like
yeah.
Olivia might. I don't know. Like I see she has the potential
I love
maybe.
Olivia.
I
That's
love
my
her too.
cousin, but no.
But
But I know what you mean. I
you know
know
what I
what you mean.
mean?
It's that's the
No
thing.
one's
There's
doing
no
that.
no
No,
no.
no. I'm
I
gonna
don't
try
think
to
we've.
find.
There's not. The
So
only like the only like performer nowadays that gags me is Beyonce, but like other tier,
yeah,
you know?
Beyonce's vet. Like she's a vet. Like that's like
Exactly.
the younger kids. I'm like,
You know what I will say? Somebody that does has that similar effect, especially within her last two eras, Planet Her era and a Hot Pink era, is Doja. Those
mm,
performances she was on, like from Hot Pink era after Say So came out to the entirety of the Planet Her era, she was on a performance run and award show performance run the way Britney was. Every performance you'd see, it might be Say So, but it's gonna be Say So, the fucking Matrix version. It's gonna
right.
be Say So, the rock version. It's gonna be
Hmm.
something different every time. It's gonna look like she rehearsed it for 8 weeks prior, but she only rehearsed it for a week before. Like, I will give it to Doja and say she's the closest
Yeah.
thing we have, but also like retrospectively in her own right, a complete own, embodied artist herself,
Right.
obviously. But like, we don't have girls that do that no more.
We really
We
don't.
don't.
I think we don't have these blockbuster like music and pop culture moments anymore.
No.
And I think it's sad. But it's also like, wow, I mean, I really do believe like pop culture kind of died at some point. Like
Yeah.
not necessarily 2009, but maybe like, 2016.
Yeah.
I just feel like this is a testament to like what that used to be like in those moments. VMAs come on now and we're like, cool. You watch the clip show later and you're like,
I
everyone did fine.
1,000,000%. VMAs were something like religiously I
Mhm.
would not miss. Now I question if I'm gonna watch them, which like childhood me would be like, oh, how dare you? Now I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna watch this shit. Really depends on who's there. But
It just doesn't really mean much anymore. Even when you have those moments, like Doja had a really cool performance this year at the VMAs, and I loved it. I loved it. I watched it on YouTube later,
mhm,
but it wasn't like a moment.
no.
I don't think I don't think it's happened. I hate to say it. I almost feel like Miley Cyrus. I love Miley, but I think she killed the VMA spectacle because that last one was the last one everyone remembered.
Yeah,
Like,
I think she
where
was
were
like
you when you
the
saw her grinding on Robin Thicke with the finger? You
yeah, it
know?
was like that was kind of like the VMAs like supernova
Yeah.
of VMAs moment. Like it was so huge where after that nothing
It's like
could
you're going
compare.
home, sweetie.
You, you're going home, sweetie.
You're going home,
You're
sweetie.
going home, sweetie. But yeah, so going to the VMA performance, she like notes, the rehearsal process.
Mhm.
The snake like hisses at her. She's fucking petrified. Here we see like the kind of shit she would have to deal with for these quote unquote pop culture moments, which like first of
Yeah.
all, like would not slide today. And maybe that might be like a reasoning for why these pop culture moments don't happen because like these risks aren't being taken. Like Olivia Rodrigo isn't picking up a poisonous python, and twirling around with it the way Britney was. But that's probably because back in the day, all the label execs were like, yeah, this is gonna be sickening and kind. Go for it.
I mean, can I just say though, sometimes I'm
Go
a
for
little
it.
confused with these moments like this.
Hmm.
I've always assumed that this snake was probably something Britney thought of.
Yeah.
Like, let's gag because it sounds like a lot of these kinds of ideas were Britney's ideas. So sometimes when it seems like it's not,
Hmm.
it's a little confusing
Yeah.
because I mean, I think we're gleaning that it's a little bit of both.
Hmm.
Like she had creative input and things that she wanted to do. Baby More Time video. I don't want to be a Power Ranger. I want to
Yeah.
do this. Like talk. You know what I mean? But I
Absolutely.
do think like we're seeing moments where sometimes she just was told what they wanted her to do. Pick up a giant snake. Okay, why not? Um,
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting. It just kind of paints things. I think you make assumptions based on like I always think like this era and in the zone probably one of the biggest things that surprised me about these eras is some of the racier, more pushing the envelope things were not completely her idea. I was
Yeah.
always in the impression that these things were like, I want to push it, I want to gag them a bit. And she seems in retrospect to feel like, I didn't really love that. I didn't
Yeah.
love the snake. I didn't love being in a bed with a guy naked. Like, I'm like, oh, huh.
Yeah.
I really thought it was your idea the whole time.
And it's crazy because to that point exactly, she's just so good at pulling shit off, especially at this time where it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it looks like, you watch her walk across the VMA stage with the stage on it. It's like there's no way people told her to do this shit. It's like this like she has that fire in her eyes where it's like that was her thing, you know what I mean? But
Right.
that's a very, very like enlightening point, truly, that I
Yeah.
like think about too.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It just kind of makes you like, I mean, I know it's in a later chapter, but one of the biggest tragedies that kind of like broke my childhood was that Onyx Hotel Tour was something she didn't like at all. And I was like, I thought that was one of the most cunt tours of all time. I really thought that was like, I thought she sat there and wrote that tour out on a little hotel napkin. I was
Down.
like, this is the Onyx Hotel Tour. I was like, wait a minute. You know what I mean? So it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting
You know what I
that,
will say? And like it's funny because Onyx, like as heartbreaking that is, I understand the context of it now. Like maybe there's context to it and there's nuance to it because like Onyx maybe creatively she like, but like you ever have a job that like you start and you love it and it's like aligned with your passion, but then when work becomes work, it doesn't matter how much you love that shit. When
yeah,
work becomes work, you hate
true.
it. So if we're talking about like that Onyx instance, and like this isn't me like defending her, I'm just like thinking like as her 2004 debut 99, she's what, like 6 something years into her career, overworked, being the number one girl for, a long time. She's holding shit down.
Right.
She probably found creative freedom and an outlet in making that tour, but also after a while, the tour to fans every night is the spectacle, but to her every night, it's like, I gotta do this work. I have to put on this bodysuit when I'm on my period. I feel fucking bloated. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
right,
it
right,
kind of
right.
becomes a burden because she's the one doing it. Whereas
I
where this
agree.
but it's also it's like, I don't know. And then your point exactly. It's the most contour of all
It
time.
is. I mean, it's interesting because I kind of feel like as an artist, I feel like there is always that line where like your passion becomes your work. And
Mhm.
like exactly. And sometimes it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing this project because I love what I'm doing, but now it's becoming a job and I'm burdened by it and I'm working long hours and I'm not sleeping. It's not fun anymore. So I think I think there's a balance to it where an artist to still love what they're doing,
Yeah.
there has to be some sense of like balance and taking care of yourself, and if not it's going to be tainted by it. And I feel like reading the book, weirdly, I think the only projects that she claims in that way were like, this was my baby, my labor, it never felt like work to me, was Blackout, Glory, and maybe the Dream Within a Dream tour. I think those 3 things are the things she talks about, like, with that pride, that feeling of, like, "I love this.
Mhm.
This was me. I
Mhm.
created this. I artistically engineered this."
Mhm.
I don't know. Everything else seems like it became a job, which
Yeah.
is a little sad because
1,000,000%.
yeah.
I agree. And that's the thing. It's like now as we're like, entering the Britney era, like we see the love she has, which like I will say is like relieving because I'm like, ooh, like hearing that she hated Onyx, I'm like, ooh, that was a hit to my heart. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm glad to know that like her, like I guess peak and prime era, like at least granted there's work behind it and it probably was strenuous at times. She's able to be like, you did a damn good job, queen.
Yeah.
But and it's funny the point that you make too about art becoming work and work becoming work and not art anymore. She kind of makes a point too when talking about Crossroads. As she's filming Crossroads,
Yes.
acting is something she's always been into. She has an experience of acting in the Mickey Mouse Club. And so she's excited for Crossroads, this whole opportunity, but then kind of gets lost in it. And we were talking about how it was just so fascinating before
Yeah.
filming. Yeah, Mama was method acting Lucy Wagner the house down, apparently. And I'm like,
I saw you and John Ali talking about this one.
yeah, I'm like, my sister, I love you, but like these are very like this is
I have a
you, girl.
counterpoint to make,
Oh,
though.
hit it.
I felt what y'all were saying. The character of Lucy was a Britney composite. Like, if
Uh-huh.
Britney was a normal girl going to high school, graduating.
Yeah.
But I feel like that kind of is it, though. It's like Britney never had that normal kid experience. As we learned in the book, she only did a couple months of high school in between her Mickey Mouse days and her Baby One More Time days. She didn't have a normal high school experience, didn't have like prom, graduation, all these things, going to college. I think that she vested a lot of those ideas and things into this idea of a Lucy character as like a alternate universe Britney. And I think when she says method acting, I think she's more talking about creating a character that is like the woulda coulda been, and also um kind of creates a schism, I think, between like her as a performer and a brand and her as like a girl from Louisiana that like wants all those simple things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as we see after what happens in Crossroads in her breakup, she continuously, as huge of a star she is, keeps trying to find those things. Those like normal girl from Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
like want to get settled down, get married, have babies at 22, like things that
Yeah.
like someone of her caliber, it's like
Yeah.
not, that's not in the cards. So I think in a weird way, this Lucy character, this method acting, I think she's using the word method acting. I think what she really means is like I don't even know the word for it. Like call it wish
Yeah. Yeah.
fulfillment, call it like getting lost in a
Mm.
character, lost in an idea of who you could have been, um like having some kind of schism inside yourself. Brittany does continuously over the years become drawn to personas that are not Britney Spears, whether it be Mona Lisa or Maria Revered or the British woman in a pink wig. You know what I mean? It's like I think over the years we found that Britney escapes Britney. Like Britney is always looking to kind of break out of like this Britney and be this other girl. So I felt like that was what this whole part of the book was getting at by saying method acting.
My sister.
That's my thesis, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's
This
like
show was yours. You ate that.
thank you.
Point
Welcome to
proven,
me, myself,
corrected,
and
and
Dinah.
feel free. I'll produce for you. Wow. 1,000,000%.
Yeah. That was my reading of it. I think that the movie was just a vehicle for that. But it felt like that was what she was feeling.
That was the highlight of my day.
Oh, thank
Genuinely.
you.
I learned so much in that moment. You're a fucking genius.
I like honestly, low-key, I used to want to be like a psychologist. Like I just always I find the ways that we like inhabit the world and kind of go into our own
Yeah.
minds as a reaction really fascinating.
Yeah.
So Brittany is just like such a
Oh, yeah.
interesting case because she is so lucky. She's a star. She has everything, but what she wants and her desires don't seem to be aligned with what we see like on the screen.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a really powerful tale of like the human spirit. And I think that like acting, I think that's why she didn't like it, because I think she felt uncomfortable with confronting those things.
Mm.
You know?
Abso-fucking-lutely. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. So with that being said, we're going to move to chapter 12 and going off of what you're talking about, these things that she dreamed of. One of these many themes of Britney's life and her career that she dreams of is a sense of normalcy. And here we also start seeing her dabble in quote unquote rebellion.
Wary of others.
The ones closest to you. The poison they feed you and the voodoo that they do. But in rebellion, there is a sparkle of truth.
Don't just
That's
stand
my
there.
fucking, don't just stand there. Do what you got to do. That's my fucking mama. So chapter 12, we go, we do that whole weird, like, go back in time thing to the end of the Oops tour where she's talking about, this is like just like a little thing mentioned in the chapter, but, I find it important because she mentions the rebellion. She talks about being a part of Rock in Rio in Brazil for the Oops tour. And she mentions being really close with her dancers at that time. She was, staying up with them, drinking wine, and she would go skinny dipping and having a good time. And she notes that she felt free. She felt both like a woman and a child. She felt free and liberated, which I love, because that's like mine too. That's why I always look up to this woman, is that never-ending pursuit of feeling like your most grown self, but also your most innocent, childlike self. And when you have those two, that's when you feel free and liberated. And that for her was skinny dipping with her dancers, which I get. Like, you're under, you wake up, gym, rehearsals, sound check, show, night is over, wake up at the next venue, do it again. Whereas, this moment for her was probably a night after the show, get back to the hotel, meet up with the dancers, drink a bit, and just enjoy the night. A moment of freedom,
Yeah.
bliss. That's all she wanted.
Feeling like that normal girl, you know.
That was
And I
her
think that's
Lucy moment.
absolutely. And I think that's the cruelty of her, quote unquote, her team, keeping her separated from those other people, her peers.
Ugh.
It's like, that is the cruelest thing you can do. Like, you have to have those connections. Isolation is the cruelest form of
Yep.
torture.
Absolutely.
And I think we see in passages like this that Brittany is just, she wants to connect. She wants to have, she wants to feel free and fun and,
Yeah.
naughty and silly and
Yeah.
all these things. Like, we all have to have that.
It's the fucking human experience,
Mhm.
Like, sure, you could be, the biggest pop star in the world, but like, you can't be that without being a human before that,
Yeah.
Like, that's all she wanted. So,
What did you think of her? I think this is a chapter about the Chicago thing.
yes. It's funny because I'm not a theater gay. I've never seen Chicago. I do want to go see it, but all I know is that it's kind. And hearing that she was not only like she was offered the role, but it's something to this day that she still regrets. I'm like, fuck,
Okay, but like,
she would have ate it.
I just saw Pam do Roxy last year.
Yeah.
Pretty sure Roxy's the role, and like Brittany can do it now. I thought honestly, a woman in her 40s, like, I think that's like way better. Like for
Yeah.
the Roxy character, like I think she could kill that. I don't know. I was really struck by that. I wonder if they'd reach out again.
I hope they do.
I hope so too.
I hope. And she loves being in New York. Could you imagine?
Exactly.
Those tickets, like they
I
already
can
would have sold like
imagine.
crazy. My hair's falling out. They already would have sold like crazy if this was 2001 taking on this role in
Right.
Chicago. But like 2020, 4 and beyond, oh my God, those
Could you
theaters would be
imagine?
packed.
It's so
They would be shaking. The fucking screens in Times Square would be collapsing onto the ground.
Oh God, I can only dream.
Within a dream.
Within a dream.
I wish. But yeah, so chapter 12 is just, that moment. Then we fast forward to the Britney album is out.
Yes.
And Dream Within a Dream tour happens. We have so much to talk about in so little time. So, like, excuse me if I'm flying through this. But
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Dream Within a Dream tour, what are your thoughts?
Love it. Love that she loved it. Yeah, I think there's something about that people loved it that I also feel like she loved.
Yes.
I think that was a big part of it. But yeah, I mean, it's a great tour. It's a great show. Very Michael Jackson-y.
Yes. I think that's like, I'm an Onyx girl down.
Yeah, me too.
But like, if there was an alien that came from wherever and was like, girl, I need to get into this Britney Spears girl. What's her tea? If there was one concert or tour I would show her, it would be Dream Within a Dream. Because that's just quintessential Britney,
Yeah.
head to toe, inspirations, influences implemented into that show. Michael, Janet, Madonna, but it's still so Britney at the same
Absolutely.
time. I'm so thankful we have Live from Las Vegas.
Yeah, and honestly, like Wade Robson choreographed that one, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that man was
in his
insane.
bag.
Like,
yeah. And that's, I think, what I love about that show is that it was like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like there was a creative sphere around it. It was a fully executed and realized creative concept. He was the creative director, but he was also the choreographer. He made remixes of this, the hits
he
like Baby
did.
and everything.
I forgot that.
Some of them are in streaming. They don't have her vocals, but they're the instrumentals
So
of it.
crazy.
The Baby one that's the closing of the show is on there. And they really did an amazing job at creating a separate world of that show. Truly, Dream Within a Dream. I'm so thankful she loves it. Yeah, truly, truly top tier. So yeah. And at this point, she has like a home base with Justin. They're living together in Orlando, which I was gagged. I thought they lived together in California. I remember the MTV Diaries, and it shows her showing her home with Justin. I thought that was California. I did not know they were living in Florida.
I don't know how I did kind of know that, but I don't really remember how. But yeah, Justin stuff is just it's interesting. I feel like they were just playing house, but it's like, I don't know. I get it. They look sweet together.
They do.
Very like teen dream.
Yeah, at this point, this is, denim on denim look at the American Music Awards. Like, this is their peak. But what we also didn't know at this time, and to me as a lifelong fan, I didn't know this either, and I don't know if you did either, but she reveals that he was cheating on her at this time, and she was aware of it. She don't know, but she knows. Tovlo reference.
Yeah, I think we all heard things that like definitely wasn't Justin cheated, but it was never like confirmed. I think it was incredibly big of her that she never threw this back at him.
Yes,
Like
even
the
at the
way she was
time.
being getting a mountain of slut shaming, and I mean, this just infuriated me. I just like I love that she brings up the photos of him with the girl from All Saints because that photo was always out there. She infers that he slept with another famous woman, who I think people are saying is Jenna Dewan. That's what I've been
Really?
hearing a lot. And Jenna Dewan was on Watch What Happens Live, and they asked her about after. I guess they asked her, "Did you date
Ooh.
Justin after the breakup?" She's like, "Yeah, we were involved." And it was like, "Girl, more like during." Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think,
Involved is such a fishy word too. Just be about it.
and it's like, yeah, I don't know. This stuff, it's hard because they're all young. It's a,
Yep.
it's tricky. They're all young. Like they're kids, and kids do dumb
Superstars.
stuff.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like he cheated on her. Okay. She cheated on him. Okay. Him, what gagged me was them getting past it, the Wade Robson thing,
Mhm.
putting it behind them. And then all of a sudden, the next chapter, he's distant and aloof because he's constructed a plan with his A&R and his management.
Yep.
Disgusting.
Yep.
And
Yep.
breaks up with her to fulfill a narrative that they wanted to have because Justified would not work with a cutesy, fartsy little teen couple. They wanted a single dark-haired Justin who was scorned.
Yep.
It's just bullshit.
Which is crazy. And I'm like objectively speaking, I'm like, y'all, the music was great. Y'all didn't have to put this girl down just to have your solo act take off.
Pathetic.
Like I Love You is an amazing debut single.
Yeah.
You don't have to shit on this whole girl's life, especially when
Really is
you've
very
done
sad.
shady shit too behind the scenes. Not to mention, we'll go over it like as quick as possible, but the abortion takes place
Yeah.
too in this time. Brittany, as we say, Brittany's chase for normalcy, her kind of like fairy tale white picket fence, Lucy Wagner lifestyle. Like she finds out that she's pregnant with Justin's baby, and like she's like, I'm happy. This isn't an accidental pregnancy. I want to keep this.
Yeah.
They have that whole back and forth. He comes to a conclusion that he thinks it's best for them to not have it. She I don't want to say agrees, but she learned to, I guess, agree to disagree, which is crazy to say when it's like this. We're talking about like one's own body here.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like what's really telling about this whole passage is what she's not saying.
Mm,
We're not really getting her thoughts on what she felt like about being pregnant and about having a baby at this stage in her life. She very, very carefully omits kind of like, she says, I don't know if it was the right decision, but we just don't get a sense of like, did you want a baby at this time? Is it something you wanted? I
mm,
think we know the answer,
yeah,
right? So it's just, that's, I think, the most heartbreaking part, like reading between the lines of this.
yeah,
Um, it's hard. I mean, you can tell she's writing very carefully around things. And
yes.
honestly, like I do feel like Justin got off pretty lightly. He probably disagrees, but it's like this is her story, and you really just made every bad decision you could possibly make at every turn. So it's like you did what you did, but she's painting you in a pretty sympathetic light, considering that you sat there and strummed a guitar while you forced her to do an abortion at home without being numbed.
To then break up with her after. Poor
To then
girl.
go and meet with your A&R about how we're going to frame Britney as the, you know, the villain here. Framing Britney Spears.
Poor girl. Poor girl.
Yeah, it's sick.
It's
upsetting.
crazy. She also notes, which is, I'm glad she mentioned this moment too, because a lot of people brought it up on Twitter like before the book came out. And it's one of those things where I'm like, is this just like lore that doesn't, have like a tangible source? But it does. And I'm glad she said it. It was the moment that Justin broke up with her, which was via text while she was on the set of the Overprotected Dark Child remix
Protected.
video, which I like. That video has always been excellent, but now ever since that moment,
No, it's
you
so
look
good.
back on it, you look at that rain scene and you're like, oh, I wonder what set was that day.
Yeah.
How it was in that moment.
It's pretty incredible. I mean, to get up in the face of that and just honestly quite frankly to serve that
Yeah.
hard in the rain. I don't know. I mean, that's why she's truly a legend. Like stuff like that is like legend.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, completely. It's not to like glamorize these moments of struggle, but it's how these people, realize what they're going through in that moment, but are brave enough, brave new girl, brave enough to say, you know what? Show must go on.
Show must go on.
And as you say, just simply fucking serve.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, and she notes that she mentioned to the director, she's like, you know what? I'm going to show him that he lost the best thing he's ever had, or whatever the quote was.
Yeah. And he did.
And he did.
He really did. And it's crazy
Sad.
how were you confused by the whole him flying back out to Louisiana for the video to give that letter?
Yeah.
I was like, that was an interesting one.
Yeah. Can you like, because I had trouble kind of understanding it.
Yeah.
May you like explain it?
So she says he flew out to Louisiana to visit her after breaking up with her over text. Brought her a long letter he'd written that she's now framed, and it ends with the words, "I can't breathe without you." She says, reading that, I thought, damn, he's a good writer, because that was exactly how I felt, like I was suffocating. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm just trying to understand. I'm trying to visualize that part of the story. Like him coming back to her after he was such a shithead, texting 2 words and bringing her a long letter that I can't breathe without you. And then she kept it framed under her bed. It's like, wow. Like,
you know what? Maybe this isn't at all defending him, but I think what he was doing in this moment, like him being her boyfriend in this case, I think this was him prioritizing him and his career over her in this moment.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Like I think in his heart, he wanted to stay with her.
Yeah.
But he was like, nope. I don't want to say it, but we'll say it. Like at this point, like he sold his soul and he sold
he
her
just
story.
knew their time was done. He knew that the power couple, what they get out of being a power couple, being in sync and all that. It was like he wanted to rebrand.
Yep.
He knew that.
Yep. What's gonna be hot is him leaving the girl, him taking off with this new persona as a solo artist.
Because I'm sure he was told that constantly by his PR, his A&R. You'd be way more marketable as a solo artist if you are single. And if you were less like,
yeah,
like
absolutely.
And like we said, Britney was doing the Britney album. We were going into a very hip hop infused era. We were going into like, it wasn't really about being cute and bubbly and colorful anymore. It was about having edge, and everyone wanted to like.
Sex was beginning to sell.
Sex is beginning to sell, and also like the dark side of things was kind of sexier as well.
Yeah.
And I think like Britney was kind of doing that, but there was always kind of like it was more coy, and it was still very. We weren't quite going to blackout yet, we were kind of just like playing with the darkness a little bit. Whereas I think Justin, you see that cover of Justified, it's just like, what in the Creed, like Creed meets like
Soundgarden
meets like B2K, like Omarion. I'm like, what? Okay, like what was the marketing here?
Yeah,
like we're gonna make him dark and edgy, but he still sounds like he's in a boy band, but he's playing with like jack swing and hip hop, but he's like. Anyway, I think they decided that Britney's gonna weigh you down at this point. So
crazy.
That's what he did.
So since we're in the Britney era, and I also realized we still have more studio time. Woo!
Oh, woo!
I know. I just realized that. That's why I was like,
oh, amazing.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Cute.
Mm-hmm.
So we can get to the.
Oh, yeah.
What I was worried about. Can I get a taste of water real quick?
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, I just realized we have till 4:30 next client comes in, but like that means like wrap up at like 4:10, 4:15, whatever.
Perfect.
All right. Since we're in the Britney era, I did want to ask you, what are your favorites from Britney album? Briefly, what do you think about the Britney album? Where does it stand in your?
Well, yeah, Britney album was a tricky one because I didn't get to experience it like coming out. It was very, that was the band album for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember my sister. This is funny. I remember this because it was banned, and I was like, yeah, I don't like Britney because she's very not unchristian, like whatever. But my sister had the album, and I remember I took the booklet because I loved that little colorful holographic, like
the back cover.
The butterfly thing. I love that booklet. And I think Overprotected was definitely like that song that action. That was the one I would do numbers to for sure. And I think Cinderella was always that one too.
Cinderella.
Yeah, I don't know. I was such a teeny bopper as a kid. I was like, I'm a slave for you and boys. I was like, what's going on here? Like, it had to. It wasn't until In the Zone came out where I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of yeah.
I see.
But yeah,
Britney's great. I think I love that she loves that album to this day. There's those stories like back when her and Sam were, engaged. It was her driving around
oh yeah,
playing Lonely for Sam. So I'm glad she loves it. I love Britney. Some days, that means some days. Whitney reference, but she says sometimes. But some days, it's my favorite Britney album. And like this is coming from like the diehard In the Zone stand of life, but like some days, like the Britney album, I'm like, fuck, this is excellent.
yeah.
It's
I feel you.
excellent.
It's aged well in a weird way. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think in my Britney canon, even like let's say 5, 6 years ago, the Britney album was a lot lower. But I think there's something about the coming of ageness of it. I honestly listened to I'm Not a Girl, Not Yet a Woman. I never listened to the song back then. I thought it was cheesy. I didn't really get it. And then I listened to it recently and oh, this is so stupid. I was listening to it and the part where she says, um, don't tell me what to believe. I'm just trying to find the woman in me. I just started crying. And I was like, oh
That's
my God, it's so
beautiful.
beautiful. And I got it. I was like, I understand this now. Like, I
Yeah.
get it. I get it. I think something about what she was trying to say with the album. And I think branding was so powerful in this era. And I think it made
Yes.
it hard to like see through it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was branded. Pepsi, this, PlayStation, like they were
Yeah.
like the movie tie-in, Crossroads, half the songs were for the movie. Everything just felt like it was a brand tie-in at the time. So I feel like in a weird way, Britney album got lost in that for me. And only recently listening to it as like a body of work,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? Outside of the
Absolutely.
zeitgeist and being like, oh wow, there's like real moments of like true vulnerable, like coming into your like womanhood in this, you know?
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's an incredible album. That's the thing. That's like you make a really good point about like there being this kind of like overwhelming presence of branding with this era. Like you kind of forget about the album. Whereas like in the Zone era, the album stands out to be the most about that era because the branding and everything took a backseat.
Yeah.
Granted, she was still everywhere. The girls now could never. But
Yeah.
compared to Britney era, it was taking more of a backseat. So that's a very, very, very fucking good point that you make about the Britney album. The Britney album to me is just like, in a way, I see it being kind of like the model of what like Ariana Sweetener is. You have the Max Martin
Oh,
pop hits, and then you have the experimental Pharrell and Nerd produced classics.
Right.
You know? And together it just made an incredible album. My favorite song at this moment, and like for the past maybe few years now, has been That's Where You Take Me. That's Where You Take
That's
Me.
a really beautiful one.
It was like that early 2000s kind of like digital sound influence from Janet's Someone to Call My Lover. Like that kind of sound.
Yes.
Yeah, What It's Like to Be Me is top 3 Britney
Really
best
good.
song of all time. That performance of Dream Within a Dream Tour is her best performance ever. Like argue
know,
with one of these walls.
That back half of the album, it's so funny because I feel like I
Oh,
wrote it
yeah.
off as like, but there's experimentation. There's like I Run Away.
Oh,
The way that they produce that like bridge where it's all like stuttering and breaking
I
apart,
run
the
away.
syncopated. Like I was like, wait a minute, I missed this.
The violins and
Yeah,
everything.
before
Like
the goodbye, like the techno, like all of a sudden, like the Euro techno, like of it all, like what's going
but
on
also
here?
this like operatic, like stacked layered Britney vocal
Yeah.
is crazy. The guitar outro at the end.
Oh God, yeah.
Justice on the self-titled record, man.
Yeah.
What? Hold on.
There was a viral tweet when all those quotes are coming out of the book. Do you remember that week when you didn't know what's real and not?
Yeah.
My world collapsed.
Yes.
And, well, I knew that one was fake, but I believed that there was a quote someone said her favorite song ever recorded was Before the Goodbye, and I believed it. When I read this book, I
Oh,
was
that's
waiting for
right.
that quote, and I couldn't believe it was fake.
I know.
But I bought it. I was like, okay, I see it. I get that.
I think she's still streaming it. She's already she's always streaming the Britney record, so I think that one she is included
think
with
so, too.
that. But yeah, love the Britney record.
good.
So with that being said, we're gonna move on to pretty much the rest of this, which is like chapter 13, 14, 15, which all kind of like blend in together. We're now post Justin era,
Okay.
essentially. And a note I have brings me to page 84,
This is
if we're
chapter 14. Oh,
talking.
yeah.
Is this important? You know what? Yeah, actually, we'll close like the Britney era with this quote, I think. This is from matter of fact, this is chapter 14. Hold on now.
That's 14.
Yeah. Okay, so we're on chapter sort of kinda. Okay. So with that being said, the Britney era closes with this quote that I think is like a really nice way to close the book. She says, "Life in Louisiana has passed me by. I felt like I had no one to talk to, going through that breakup, going home, seeing how much I'm gonna start this over. Life in Louisiana. Why am I starting? I'm gonna start this over from the top. Action. Do. Life in Louisiana had passed me by. I felt like I had no one to talk to. Going through that breakup, going home and seeing how much I didn't fit in anywhere anymore, I realized I was technically growing up, becoming a woman. And yet, honestly, it was almost like I went backward at the same time and became younger in my mind. Have you seen The Curious Case of Benjamin Button? That's how I felt. Somehow that year, in becoming more vulnerable, I started to feel like a child again. This is very telling as to where we're going on in this book.
Yes.
And it reminds me of when we were scheduling this episode today. And I was like, yeah, we're going to chat about like chapters 10 through 15. The thing that you brought up, which is the most poignant thing ever, was you said, oh, this is really where like the innocence starts to
Yes. And
kind of rid itself away. Yeah, the innocence is lost. So now we're post breakup from Justin era. In the Zone isn't just out yet. We still have the Britney era to go to. The image of Britney as we know it is changing. So yeah.
Yes.
So that's where we are right now. And I think a really telling sign of where we are in this era is the Stages documentary. Would you agree?
Yeah, I actually watched it recently.
I'm so glad she brought it up in this book.
Yeah, me too.
I'm so glad. What do you think about Stages?
I remember a lot of Britney documentaries and things. I remember being a lot more like fun, and watching it back, I think more recently, there's a melancholiness to most of them. Stages
Absolutely.
especially, it's just kind of like it's giving melancholia. It really is. It's
Mhm.
like it's not sad, like blatantly, but there's just a lot of like nuance in these little moments and little things and the isolation. And
Yeah.
I mean, especially like Brittany talking about, I can't wait to, she keeps talking, can't wait to go see my mom. Can't wait to see my mom. I can't wait to go see my mom. And then she talks about here how like she went and saw her mom, and it's like she was a stranger in the house. And
Yeah.
actually Justin was her family. Oh, but Justin broke up with her. So it's like, where is this? Where is her piece exactly? Like, what is, because she doesn't want to be there, is what I feel the whole time in Stages.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
she's so polite, which I think when you watch like Chaotic, which is her being like a lot more like just carefree
Yeah.
and open and like loose tongued. In Stages, she's very like, the difference is wild. Like I think it's a year and a half, maybe like a year and a half, 2
Absolutely.
years.
Yeah.
But she's just like very.
She's still that Southern girl
Yeah.
that says, please and thank you,
Yep.
sir, ma'am, signs her name with a heart. Very that. It's a very good point that you bring up. And yeah, Stages is definitely melancholic.
Yeah.
That's the word to put it. Especially it's taken towards the end of the Dream Within a Dream tour, the era, you know, the peak era, the tour that she loved, going back to that whole example of like when your work and art just become work now at this point. That's what's happening here. You know, she already arrives to Mexico and there's scrutiny because she arrived and like flicked off a photographer or whatever. Like
Right.
people really used to make a big deal out of this shit. Like
Really did.
crazy.
It's crazy.
Right? And you know, the show, they had 2 nights of the tour. First night went well, second got canceled because of like fucking insane storms. You see it in the video. Like it wasn't safe to perform or
Yeah.
safe for people to be there watching the show. But it sounds irrelevant, but it's very relevant because this is all just kind of like tumbleweeding tangible evidence of the backlash and the shitstorm that the world, society, and pop culture is about to put Britney through in the years 2002 and so forth.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's kind of the beginning. I don't know where she mentions the idea of the curse. That was really telling to me. I feel like this is.
Ooh, when was that?
I want to say maybe maybe it's this chapter, the next chapter at some point. It's between here and Diane Sawyer.
That bitch.
But I feel it though as she's ruminating on these stories, like, because and honestly, like this chapter is one of the few chapters where you get to see Brittany just like having fun,
Yeah.
doing things that young adults do,
Yeah.
and it's sad that she doesn't really have a lot of moments like that or eras like that where she does.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like there's so much scrutiny and eyes that it, you know, until having children anyway, like there's really not a lot of moments she gets to be like that. And I don't know, I do think that it's interesting that she talks about the tide churning and the
Mm-hmm.
way that I mean, honestly, she starts going into it saying talking about culturally how, you know, people loved to trash women in this time
Yep.
in order to, you know, boast strength and power and like, you know, I don't need you know, that fuck you bitch era basically.
Yep.
And I think that she was kind of a martyr for it in a way, you know.
Absolutely.
And it's like she was 21. Crazy.
Crazy. Like Alice Cooper, the fucking governor of Maryland's wife, saying at a fucking anti-violence rally, I believe, that
Mhm.
if she could, she would shoot Britney Spears. Like, what are you adults doing
Right.
to this kid?
So literally.
What are y'all doing?
Yeah. And I feel like it's crazy because if we think about someone like Olivia Rodrigo now, who's the same age, could you imagine?
Oh my gosh.
It's just like, I don't know. It's hard to kind of
No, it's
absorb.
absolutely valid. Yeah.
It really is. And I think it's funny though, because what really struck me about this chapter the most is like, okay, so she talks about this. Are we in 15?
Yeah.
She talks about the Versace party. Which we
Yes.
all know what that night is. We all know that
What that dress.
the dress. Okay, but crazy though, reading that this is her in this moment in time, and that's what she looked. Because you, when you're a kid and you see that, you're like, oh my god, this woman, like she's so grown. She's like the strong grown woman. Like
Mm-hmm.
I probably guess she's probably like 29 or 30 or
Yeah.
something, right? No, she was a literal child, and like
Literal
it's
child.
crazy how she never had the opportunity to have the transition.
Absolutely.
She just started being a working adult that made millions of dollars
As a kid.
as a kid.
You know what I mean? She was pretty much like put in like adult drag.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's like, yeah, that's probably why she struggles with the idea of like being an adult technically, but feeling like a child, but operating like an adult,
Yeah.
but never doing things that a child did to become an adult. It's like she didn't get to have that. We all had that transition, which is why I think I'm Not a Girl Yet, I'm Not Yet a Woman did make me emotional
Yeah.
recently, is because I think that's what she's saying. I know Dido wrote it, but I think that's the, you know,
Absolutely.
that's what that song is trying to say. It's like
Absolutely.
you have to have that bridge you cross. Like you can't just be thrown into it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think these little moments are interesting because I think she's naturally trying to have these moments
Yeah.
of like coming into her own and her womanhood,
Absolutely.
but they're few and far between.
Yeah, and the moment that you wanted to bring up, I know, was the moment where I believe this is while she was in Italy.
Yeah, yes.
Correct?
I think this is the party, right? The same party?
Yes.
Yes, this is Donatello's party. Lenny Kravitz was there. And there's a Brazilian, handsome, smoking a blunt, bad boy.
And she hates weed, but she still fell for him.
The kind of man you want to have a one night stand with. He was just sex.
I love hearing her have fun like this because that's like that's you know, that's like the language and that's the curiosity of, you know, somebody in their like not yet a woman phase. That's somebody in
Yes.
transition. That's
You
somebody
have to have
growing.
it.
Yeah. That's a girl just having her fun. That hasn't
I
begun
mean,
yet. You know, like
we know people who've had that stage for fucking
oh.
a million years too long.
Oh,
It's like
absolutely. Fucking 45-year-olds that are in open relationships that are still dipping and doing it, which like shout out to you, not shaming anyone. But I'm like, God damn
No.
girl, like can we tie it down, please?
It's just like the
For
opposite
me
in Britney's
personally.
case. It's like
Exactly.
people in nightlife, they're doing it for decades on end. Britney, like, just these little glimpses, little moments where she gets to be
These little
fun and uninhibited and like.
Absolutely. Did you read Mariah's memoir?
No, I need to.
Ooh,
I need to.
you would love it. You
I'm going to
would
read that
love it.
one.
I think still to this day, Mariah's memoir is the greatest piece of pop culture I've ever digested. Music, book, I don't care. Greatest thing.
Oh,
It's art.
okay.
It's art.
Okay.
It's the
I'll never
Bible.
check it out.
I don't
I
care.
love Mariah.
It's amazing, and she has a lot of moments of these like like moments of escapism and whimsy and just like freedom, living life, Britney skinny dipping or Britney going out this one guy to have a one night stand. It's seen much similarly so in Mariah's memoir. You would love
Okay,
it.
see, because I love that stuff. To be honest with you, like I love this book so much. I
Hmm.
I think like if we could have had more moments like this, I feel like
Yeah.
because this chapter, I mean, we go from a Versace party where she has a guy in a car
Uh,
to her Nebraska
absolutely.
experience. It's like there's a lot going on here
Yeah.
that is just like you said, it's whimsical, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like slices of life. It's not exactly
Oof.
career retrospective. You know what I mean? I love hearing her getting the snake from Little Munchkin. The little mun
Right. Right.
right, great. It's cool
Yeah.
to hear about it, but I'm way more interested in like these stories in chapter
That's
15
a beautiful point.
than the other ones.
And I agree completely. I honestly, like, if Britney doesn't release music ever again, go off. I would love to hear her be an author. Like, you just said, I'm trying to, what, you said, like, something glimpses, hidden glimpses. You said
Oh,
something.
slices of
Slices of
like
life.
slices of life. Yeah, like I would
I could
love.
see her putting a book out like that.
Okay,
That's just essays of recounts.
what if she did like things where like she could do a book like on the road, like a tour diary book or something,
Mm.
where like these are stories that I'm sure she had so
Oh,
many
yeah.
crazy different experiences, or like a book about like early motherhood, like
Yeah.
things that she could. Because I loved hearing the glimpses of those stories,
Same.
and I kept feeling like when they ended, I was like, oh, I wanted to
Oh,
hear more about that. You
yeah.
know?
I hope that comes later on. I think this book is just to like address what everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
And hopefully from here on now, like we bring in the author-y era. And we
Yes.
get the next book that's just those slices of life and so forth. I would
I would
really,
really love that too.
really love that. One of my favorite slices of life is in chapter 15, as we like close to wrap up, is this moment. I believe what is she going through here? She's going through a lot. She's what? Oh, she has a really good friend of hers, isn't that correct? Where
Oh
she goes
yes.
to Arizona.
Chapter 9
She
page
escapes
90.
to Arizona, yeah, 9091. She escapes to Arizona with a girlfriend. The girlfriend that happened to have been dating Justin's best friend. They've all broken up around the same time, and they decided to make a road trip to Arizona. And they think it would be a great thing to do to leave all their past stuff behind and just go enjoy themselves. And yeah, she notes that she was really grateful for their friendship. And there's a moment here that I think, in my opinion, I think for me personally, my favorite part of the book. And it's something that I think I've experienced also in my life. And it's these moments like when I'm with my friends, my loved ones, that I'm like, yeah, like kind of like relating it to this book. It's like there's career highlights, there's, personal achievements, but
Right.
then there's slices of life
Yes.
that you're never going to forget. And they're going to be the things that you remember the most in life,
Absolutely.
So this was mine, and this is, or not mine, but this is my favorite moment of the book.
Hmm.
And this is the moment she notes, I quote, the sky was overhead. The sky overhead was full of stars while we drove fast through the desert in a convertible with the top down, the wind blowing in our hair, no music playing, just the sound of the night whipping past us. As we looked out the stretched road before us, an eerie feeling settled over me. I'd been moving so fast for so long, it was like I couldn't even catch my breath. Now, in this moment, something filled me, a profound beauty, otherworldly and humbling. I looked over at my best friend, wondering if I should say something, but what could I say? Do you believe in aliens? So I stayed quiet and sat there with the feeling for a long moment. Then I heard her voice over the wind. Do you feel that? She said. She looked at me. What is that? Whatever it was, she felt it too. I reached for her hand and held it tight. The poet Rumi says, the wound is the place where the light enters you. I've always believed that. The thing we felt that night in Arizona, we felt it at that moment because we needed it. We were so spiritually open and so raw. It showed us there is more than what we could just see. Call it God, call it a higher power, or call it a paranormal experience. Whatever it was real enough that we could experience it together. While it was first happening, I didn't want to bring it up to my friend because I was embarrassed. I was scared she would think I'd lost my mind. I think I could go on and on and on. That's my favorite fucking chapter. You know what? I am.
You
She
should, because
closes,
I love that.
yes,
Yeah.
she closes the chapter and she says, there was a lot I had left to discover that night. When I was lost and felt God in the desert, I'm gonna start that over. She says, there was a lot. Ooh, come on, reading. She said, there was a lot I had left to discover that night when I was lost and felt God in the desert. But I knew I wouldn't let the darkness consume me. Even in the darkest night, you could still find so much light. That's
So beautiful.
that's my mama. And that's
a mantra. That really, I think, like that bleeds into everything.
in stores now. That's that's my favorite moment of the book, and that's why I love Britney. It's in
Yeah.
moments like those slices of life.
Totally. I mean, people, I know the media has been saying that like a lot of this book is like it's sad, and I think she just made a post today actually, literally.
Yeah, she
About it.
did.
People want to read the sad stories, but she's like, actually, there's a lot of light and heart,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and
I
it's
saved it.
oh yes, it's a really good one. One of my favorite posts of hers in a long time.
She says, my book has a lot of sad stories and drama in it. I'm sure some are aware of that, but just know there are tons of beautiful and good stories in The Woman in Me. But that's not just what the media decides to pick up all the time. It is what it is. So I'm going forward just to know that was me then. That's the past and this is me now. To the good stuff and a little nasty too. Love her. And yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, that's where we are now. Chapter 15 is just pretty much like her post Justin. It's the party.
Yes.
It's that moment in Arizona. We are now just like anyone else post breakup, kind of finding where they are, finding where's their zone, if you will.
Yes.
So what do you think about where we are right now in the book? It's hard to be like all over the place. And
Well, honestly though, these chapters are kind of like that. I think there's a lot of like we said that earlier. Time goes back
yeah,
and forth a little bit. It's hard to trace exactly. Things are moving so quickly.
mm,
So much happens. I think the reason why this book feels like every page so much happens is because probably every day felt like that for her. It's just like it's hard to keep track of.
yeah,
And I feel like I think reading these chapters gave a lot of insight as to like where she goes next. I think in a lot of ways, she was a woman on top of the world. But
mm,
when you're 20 years old and you're on top of the world, like where do you go next? And I think that's kind of part of the battle a little bit. It's like, what is that? Like what is that desire? What is that wanting? And I think like we're getting glimpses of it, like from experiencing God, playing characters. I think that it's part of the journey for her. So I don't know. I find a lot of strength and a lot of inspiration and trace and her kind of retracing it, honestly. It's really powerful.
it's beautiful. I love
I love
you.
doing this with you.
I
It's so fun.
I love this so much.
Me too.
I'm so thankful for you, girl. I'm so happy you came. I think that was a beautiful
Thank
way to
you.
end it. We're like, to relate it to the book, it's like we're in the makings of what In the Zone is about to be and what that air is about to be. You know, the brave new girl hasn't found herself yet.
Mm-mm.
She doesn't even know if she's a girl or a woman yet, literally.
Yeah.
So I just think you phrased that so fucking beautifully.
Thank you.
Like incredible. That's where we left off. Yeah, I'm so thankful for you coming. Like I knew it was gonna be amazing, but like that was such a fun fucking like hour and a half. And
Thank you.
like hearing your takes on everything are just like not only are they like great takes and like yay, slay mom of the house, but I'm like what I love about this girl and like having people come to this show is like see how much she means to everybody else. And like I don't know,
Yeah.
it's just so special. And like I don't know, it's really special. Like it touches me. So
It is.
yeah, and like you get it.
Thank you.
You get it.
It's one of those things where it's like I respect it. Everyone has their things that they're into. Some people aren't into Britney. Some people it's you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
I get it. I was talking to a girl yesterday, and I'm like, "Who's your girl?" And she was like, "For me, it was Trisha Paytas." And I'm like, "I respect that. I don't get it, but like
Work.
You know what I mean?"
Yeah.
And for me, it's like Britney's one of them. I have a couple, but I don't know. I think that like as people figuring ourselves out, I think we can learn a lot and glean a lot from like these people who are icons, figures, and I don't know, really kind of. I think we're all reflections. We're all mirrors of each other. Not to quote Justin Timberlake, but we're mirrors in
You better fucking work.
in a very
Mirrors in the lonely lie from dream within a dream sense.
There we go.
Think about the
there we
times that are
go.
wasted. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think I don't know, talking about Britney is really it's really great. I don't know, it's really like reflecting, brings it full circle. And honestly, thank you for having me on because
Oh, girl, it's not about to be the last time. Trust.
Thank you. But I like needed redemption because I talked about Britney recently and I got chopped and screwed not chopped and screwed, but I don't know. I didn't like how it happened on
Send me their names
the
and their
Hulu
address and
documentary. I want
oh.
them to pay. It's very bad. I'm not posting it. I'm not like it's you know what I mean? But it's the interesting thing is, I think this is something that's just like so like a labor of love from a fan kind of speaking to that like inner child. And I think that like the media outlets that exploit Britney's story continuously when it's just like the lens of, oh, let's respect her and listen to her, but also let's like let's canvas her book so you don't have to read it and put it into a documentary, like disgusting.
Yeah.
And so honestly, I'm just upset because A, I looked horrible, but B, my words were used for something of that nature.
Yeah.
And I wasn't informed. So anyone who saw that, who makes that connection, that was not a willing participant in the documentary. But it's interesting though, because they asked me, what does Britney mean to you?
Wow.
And they chopped up my answer. It didn't make any sense what I said. But being on here, it feels like just the right way to express that. You know what I mean? It's
Aw.
like this is the right place. This is the I don't know, the little
Thank you.
I was looking for the right word for it. I can't say the Honix Hotel. The dream within a dream, if you will. You know?
Aww.
Yeah, no, I love what you've kind of recreated and curated and I don't know, it's just so much fun. This is the stuff that like that joy comes from, you know?
Yeah.
It's like doing this and like we were all in the world and we're all getting through and we need to like seek those moments of joy and people like Britney bring us joy. And it's better to share that joy
Yeah.
than like listening to it in our headphones in our little closet because our mom doesn't let it. You know what I mean? It's just like this is the way. So
I love you so much.
Thank you for having me. You're the best. This has been so much fun.
This is so fun. Oh, you smell like curious. I love it.
Do. And I have a bottle of Midnight Fantasy.
Maybe give me a spritz before I go to my next job.
We'll give you a little one, little two, three.
Thank you. Let everybody know where they can find you. Camera one is your camera.
Yes, I'm Dinah Fire or Blacklisted Barbie on all socials. I'm a DJ. I'm around town a lot, so maybe you'll see me. And if you're ever at a gig that I'm at, a Britney request is always welcome.
Gorgeous. My love.
I love you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
It was so much fun.
We'll see you all next week. Bye.
Woo! We did it. We did. Holy shit. That was amazing.
It was just a dream. Dream within a dream.